Hi, welcome to this RoboFlow training movie. In this training movie, I will show three things. One is how to call an external script, which is a new functionality since Cumulus 11.02. It is going to call an external application, which has been there for a while, but it is going to use a new functionality from 11.01, which is receiving the exit code back from that script. All this is combined in using a template script. So imagine you have a functionality that you want to use in several workflows. And if this functionality is 2 actions, then you can add that functionality in each of those workflows. But if this is a functionality that is maybe 10, 20, 30 actions, then it could be useful to put that in a separate script and have the other workflows call this script. I made a little example of a native copy of a folder. So if you look at the workflow, it looks like a traditional workflow. It can be any type of workflow, but I take a hot folder workflow because it's not gonna run anyway, so it doesn't need to take any other resources. This part I just configured to do nothing because I set the workflow with interval 0, which means that it's never going to start and never can be started manually either. What does the action script do? Well, in the action script I created a couple of parameters that are going to execute a batch file, and the batch file is in the application folder and it's called copyfolder.bat. And here in the I'm passing 2 parameters, the source folder and the target folder where to put this source folder. And so that is 2 parameters that it is expecting. And to make it easy for myself, I also documented that in the command here. I'm saying, okay, when calling this script, you need an internal parameter stored with the name cmd source and cmd target. Those 2 it will use. What it also does is it calls an external script to delete the target folder, not the target folder, but the resulting folder before starting to do the copy, to make sure that it starts from an empty situation. So there is also an external call to a script that is called DeleteFolderBat. This is on Windows, so it has Windows instructions. So if we look at the script, the action script, then here you can see remove directory with expecting 1 parameter being the folder to delete, and the other one is delete copy folder, which is an Xcopy with all the necessary parameters to make sure that it doesn't interrupt, stop, or that it overrides, that it keeps permissions, etc., etc. But you can call whatever script. This is just an example. So as you can see, this is a script that stores the path of that incoming CMD source folder. Then it tests if it exists. If it doesn't exist, it returns a value. It stores a value of the result in this parameter. And so this is the result that is coming back, the CMD result. Everything that happens in this script is stored back into that variable, so that when I call it from another script, I just need to check the value of that particular tag, and it will tell me what happened in this script. And as you can see, it's maybe 30 instructions. So if you have to repeat this in every script where you need this, then this would be a long process. So what I did is I just created a dummy workflow. I called it a template and made sure that everybody is clear that it won't run and it's not to make to run. And then I have the real script or scripts workflows where I'm going to use it. And this is the example. This is a hot folder workflow which reads text files, and in the text files I'm telling it what folders to copy, the source folder and the target folder. So I'm dropping this file in the drop folder, and this file says, okay, copy this folder called air, and then it's a tab limited file, so it has a tab, and it says copy it to that location. And then the third parameter is not used. I just do that for feedback for myself to know what is expected in this instruction. And the second one is copying it to a location that doesn't exist. The target doesn't exist, so to show you how you can trap or catch errors. And then the third one is an example that the source doesn't exist. So 3 examples, 3 commands that it will execute. And this script now becomes very easy, and so it doesn't need these parameters, and so you can just delete those or remove those. I just originally built this workflow and then extract the code from it. So here what you have is I'm processing the lines of a text file, which is the dropped file in the drop folder. I'm reading them line by line, and then I'm testing if I'm not getting an empty line, because I don't want to process empty lines of my file. And then I'm splitting that text and that line to process with the tab character. So I'm getting an array in memory called split. I call it whatever you like. And then I have an array that I can call and can say I want element 1, element 2, element 3. So as you could see, element 1 was the source folder. So I'm creating a tag, picking up the first element of that array. And I'm saying this is my source folder. So I'm saying here in this case, if I'm processing line 1, I'm saying temp air is my first source folder. And the next one is then the second column is this one is temp blah is where I will be copying this folder. And so that's what this is all about. So the second parameter, you can see. And then instead of having to add all the action scripts to do the real thing in this script, I just have to call this new action, which is new since Cumulus 11.02, execute action script. So what you have here is you just specify the path to that script, to the name of that script. And that script, how do you find out what the name is of that script? Well, that's very simple. If you go to the template workflow in the general tab, you can see where the folder is. You go to the folder and then you look for the name of the script, and action script for files will be called as you can see here in the instruction, here in the execute, you can see that this is called Roboflow file action.xml, which you can find then in that folder. It can be anywhere. It doesn't need to be part of a workflow at all. You could have copied this particular file, called it whatever you like, put it wherever you like, as long as Roboflow can access it. The reason I'm doing it through a template workflow is because then it's easy to edit. Then you can modify it, verify it, read it, etc. While if it's just an XML file that you put somewhere, it makes it a little bit harder to understand what it is really doing. The result that it gets back you can ignore, but you know, as described in the script, that you're getting back a variable that is called cmd-result. So I'm picking that up, and as a default value, should it not be there, I'm saying cmd result not found. And so that's actually the script. So now my real script becomes very small, just using a piece of code. So if now you have action scripts out there that do already a lot of stuff of your business logic. You can put them in template files and then reuse them inside your scripts. So a lot of explaining. So let's now run the workflow. So I start and run the workflow. And I do a show log. And what has it done? It has read my cmd text.txt. That was this file. It's reading it and it's going to process 3 lines in it. So the first line, it says, okay, I'm going to execute this action script. So I'm going to, batch file, copy folder, and I'm passing 2 parameters, the parameters that were sent to it. Then the copy is successful. And it's showing you the result after the call in my second workflow. I added what I'm getting back. So what you're getting back is the exit code. The reason why you're getting back this exit code is because in the call instruction we actually add exit colon in front of it, so to make sure that it does return the exit code, and then you get whatever your action script outputs was to the console system out. So this was the default system out, and Roboflow prefix it with the exit code that it gets. So in your resulting script, you can actually test for this. You can actually test this particular script and test this variable. Say it has to start with 0 colon to know that this copy process was successful. Otherwise it fails and maybe you need to notify an administrator or anything. But this is how it works. So why do you get here these? Well, the second call was the copy where the target folder didn't exist, the second line in. The third one was one where the source file did not exist. So then it returns like this. So you see it doesn't return a 0 colon, it returns a 79, 90, or whatever the operating system returns in case the instruction is executed. Let me show you one more example. A functionality that has been explained before is that you can store in Roboflow an internal variable called debug, and this needs to be the name of this variable. And you can, if you set this value to true, then any write instruction to the log that has been prefixed with debug will be written to the log. Anything that doesn't have it will also be written to the log. That's independent of that. But as I said a moment ago, you didn't have a lot of information in your logging, you just got the result back. But imagine if I add here something that I know that will fill up my disk and will fail, will give us even more detailed debug information or detailed information of what we're doing. The only reason why it's suddenly going to output more information is because I added that debug tag, and you will see that if I have a write text to XML, then here, because I prefixed it with debug, it's going to add this extra line to the log. And if that debug tag does not exist or is set to false, it will not output it. So that you will now see, if I run it again, that you will get more feedback, and we will also see my disk fill up, my D drive. And so if I go here, it will in a moment start copying. You see it's starting to copy. And if I'm asking here what my disk space is, you can see of my D drive that it's getting smaller, getting smaller, getting smaller. And at some point it will be all filled up. It will start failing the copy. So it will come back with a result saying that the copy failed. And so 400 megabytes. My computer is already complaining. And then suddenly I got my 4 gigabytes back. And why? Because in the script I built in that if there's an error during the copy, then it will delete the file. And if I do a show log on what actually happened in this workflow, I will get first of all more debug information. And so the first, you can see source folder, and this was a debug that wasn't there before. It says air to blah. It says before the copy, then you get the result. So it gives you an ability to get more debug information in your script. And then if we look all the way down here, you see that this last instruction, which was copying my training movies, which is something like 6 gigabytes, to a new folder. And then after a few moments, you can see that this copy instruction here fails. And so it says insufficient disk memory. And so it's copying for 30 seconds or something. And then it encounters insufficient disk space. So it returns with that answer. And this was actually what the copy instruction itself returned, which is together with the insufficient disk. And so this is what it returns, and this is the exit code. And so the 4 is the exit code. So that's how I know that my copy failed. So in my script I built in, if the copy fails, then I'm going to delete the failed result. I don't want a half copied file or folder there, so I'm deleting it, and it says okay, and delete result after the copy is okay. And in my action script, when I come back, I called it after the call, I get this as a result. This is the result I'm getting back in my script from the other script that I called. So I now can test if this result starts with a 0, it's okay. Otherwise, this is the error. So this was the example that I wanted to show you. You've seen a new functionality calling an external script. You've seen an existing functionality from 11.01 that was called getting the exit code back. And I hope this training movie was useful. See you in the next one.